Welcome, welcome. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabrielle, and I will be your host for today. Welcome to another ICF Academy, Season 6, Episode 2. And while we're getting comfortable, why don't you take a moment and share where you are in the world today in our little group chat? I'm very, very excited about our two guests that are coming in to speak with us today. We have Dan and Jack, who are going to be talking about staff solutions, a deep dive into the 2025 survey results in the United States. Now, some of us saw the Thanks to Camp video that was presented at the beginning. And the Thanks to Camp video is thanks to a Canadian research survey about camps across Canada, proving that camps build stronger connections to nature, as we all know, stronger connections to each other, and a strong connection to self. And that's what inspired the Thanks to Camp video. So we know that numbers, surveys in itself is really, really important. What Jack and Dan are here to do is to translate some of those numbers and share with us what we can do to best support our staff members, and also, well, they're going to get all into that. I just want to give a little note about Jack and Dan from my personal perspective. Dan and I worked together on a podcast called Camp Hacker, and we spent nearly 10 years chatting every other week about camp. And I can say that Dan's passion for getting information to people so they can do their best job is something that I've always admired about Dan. So really excited to hear and have my good friend here. And Jack and I also got to work a little bit together on just camp dreams. And I think that's where Jack really shines. He can take an idea and make it into reality. So these two perspectives, I think I'm very grateful to have with us today. And we're just looking forward to hearing from you, Jack and Dan, and I'll pass over the mic.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for having us. I'm going to share my screen right now. 1 second here.
Oh, we're ready to party this morning. Come on.
Yes, we are.
Thank you guys for that super nice introduction. You are the best, and we are excited to be here. And Gwen, thank you. I send an email every Thursday, and sometimes they're too long, but I get excited. So thanks. And we're going to talk about in a second. We're going to talk about a survey we did to try to understand staffing in 2025. Where are we? What are we up to? And how do we turn that into actionable knowledge? Before we start, I have a question for you. How happy were you with your staff in 2025 from 1 to 10? Please put it in the chat. A 1 is very, very, very unhappy. I was really disappointed with the staff that I hired. A 10 is my staff crushed it. They were the best. There was no drama. Everyone showed up exactly when they were supposed to. Um, I really hope that they all exactly come back just the way they were with no growth at all in the time away from camp. Um, okay, here we go. Here we go. We've got
Jack, no
a
one's
lot
made
of
a 6-7 joke yet.
a lot of sevens and eights. This is great. Gwen did in the chat, Dan.
There we go.
Uh,
There we go.
a lot of sevens and eights. This is great. Um,
Wonderful.
Great.
That's great.
Um, Dan, what are we gonna do today?
Yeah. I want to first of all, Gab gave us a great introduction. The trends, finding staff and hiring onboarding. As we go through these slides, what we want you to really make sure you understand is that when we started doing this, we felt it was important to gather data to really reinforce what was happening in the industry. So when we look at that, the data points aren't there to confuse us. They're there to just see if we can find any ideas that we haven't thought about. And so that's the way you should view these slides. I would not get transfixed on the numbers. I would more look at the ideas that this is bringing up. And that's how we looked at it as we interpreted the data. And we're excited to go into it with you. We're also going to give you the full slide deck. So if you scan that QR code there, what it's going to do is it's going to bring you to this button that's in front of you. If you click that button, that right here, this first bullet point, that right there is the slide deck with all the data and some as well too. So, and then obviously there's some relevant links as well. Jack's newsletter right there. There's newsletters that I write, and then there's a bunch of articles that are related to the material. But we just want to make sure you knew that we were here for you in this moment. Jack, anything to add on this section at all?
No, let's party.
Great, great. Awesome. And then if your phone's not working, we'll put it up again at the end, and we'll also give you the link at the end as well too. But happy to be there for you in this moment. And then Gabs gave us such great introductions as well with our bio, but just 2 decades of experience, over 2 decades of experience, coming on 3 decades of experience with working with camps. I spent 25 years on the operations side before switching over to a support role now. So I work with a number of camps and making sure they can operate not only efficiently, but also effectively, meaning we want to operate at a high quality for youth.
I lived in my car for 2 years. I saw 200 camps in 47 states and one province. Then Canada said, "Hey, buddy, you're not allowed to come back here." And I still am on a list where it's hard for me to get into Canada. I get pulled over every time because I said on my way over that I was going to go see Travis Allison. And they looked him up and said, "I don't think so, Buster." But really, I actually am on a list where I get pulled over every time I try to go to Canada because they thought that I was trying to go work in Canada without a work permit. And so that's funny. And now I run a camp called Kenwood and Evergreen in New Hampshire. Let's keep rolling.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about the survey. So, like I mentioned earlier, Jack and I, we are constantly trying to basically be not only thought-provoking, but making sure we're really in tune with the camp industry. My personal concern with the industry is that too many directors get together and they go, "Did you hear something? Did you hear something?" And all of a sudden they stop asking questions and they decide that's the trend. So Jack and I said, let's put a survey out together. Let's put some real numbers to this. And so we actually surveyed 294 camps. 187 of them were sleepaway. I know for many of the folks on the call, there's not a distinguishing difference between a nonprofit and a private camp. In the States, what's that referring to as a nonprofit often receives funding either from private donors or government. And then a private camp basically is self-funded. So they are charging a fee for service, and that fee is funding it. So it was important for us as we looked through the data to distinguish the two because we found that there's two different behavior sets. A nonprofit camp might act one way, a for-profit camp might actually, or private camp might actually operate a different way. But for the results we're sharing with you, this is still categorically true, meaning that it doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit camp or a private camp, it still rings true across the board. But this was important for Jack and I to delineate in the data, and that's why that exists that way. So 187 sleepaway camps and 106 day camps is who participated in the survey. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break it up by sections. So we're going to talk about trends. That's going to be our first section. We're talking about where do you find staff? And I'm sure even though this is pertaining to the US, it does translate across the world. And then the last is hiring and onboarding and how are you bringing on your staff? Right. So let's go into trends and really kind of dissect what's going on here. What we're going to do is we're going to present some numbers, and then Jack and myself will give some commentary on the numbers. So, and then Gabs will facilitate and ask some questions. So right now it's in our time zone that we're currently in 8:14. We'll do this for about 10 minutes or so. So we'll present trends to you that we saw. And then we're going to add commentary, some observations, and some action items you could take from this data. And then we'll open up the floor for Gabs to ask some questions, and we'll go from there. So great. It's good to see all the camps coming through. And a lot of overnight. Great. Yes. Yeah, I work with both, so that's great. Awesome. So Again, this survey was from the beginning of the year, so we're going to be running the survey again about just about a few weeks from now. So when people filled out the survey, as of today, what percentage of summer camp staff positions are already filled? And the majority, the largest answer was 0 to 20%. And so what that means is that a lot of people, when they were filling out the survey at the end of December, beginning of January, were only about 20% or less full. And that's the way to kind of read it. And to us, that's very interesting. And that was what was more interesting, as we showed, is that one group in particular was a little bit more ahead of the curve, was a little bit better about working on things earlier. And that is of interest to us because we want to know which group, if any, was to learn from. Great. And then just compared to last year, where you are with staffing, when we think about summer camp, I think one of the nicest things is that it's a rhythm. And so with that rhythm means that you can basically know what's coming down the pipe and what you have to do. And so you could have the opportunity to get ahead of the curve. You have the opportunity to progress in your work past last year, making your stress lower when summer camp happens. And so we were surprised when we got this data back that a lot of people just stayed the same as last year. They didn't go to move further ahead. And that was the case as well when we dissected it across the board, that a lot of folks really just worked the exact same pace they worked the year before. Just a few more data points, and then we're gonna turn it for Jack to give some commentary, and then we'll get Gabs for some questions. So, um, we asked, and we know that camps operate better when they have more returning staff, and so we asked folks what percent of staff from last summer will return. The lowest amount we heard was 3%. The highest amount we heard was 90%. The most common answer was 50%. So when we talk about this topic, what that means is that there is certainly room to grow, and from an industry standpoint, meaning that the campers come back for the staff, and if we could get that number higher, you're going to have more campers come back, and we're going to add more commentary on that in just a few seconds. And then uh, Jack and I are also look a lot at CIT programs because we really view if you have a great pipeline from a camper growing up to being a CIT or a counselor in training or some form of a leader, that leader will become your camp staff and will make your hiring easier. And the most common response was zero. So what that means is that there's a lot of camps that are not developing leaders into their staff, and the lowest was 3, and the highest was 100%. So some camps completely saw the value and totally took advantage of this in a good way, meaning that they had a great leadership program, and then some folks didn't have any. So when we talk about this, what that means is that overall, folks should be there's an opportunity for folks to grow. And the last is just like how many staff are international, or how many staff overall were from overseas, or not from the U.S. In some participation. And it was interesting to see that how many camps marked 0. The highest was 95%. So when we talk about this, it's interesting because this often becomes the biggest challenge folks have. And this is where, when we talk about the challenges and why Jack and I created this survey, and I'm going to invite Jack to jump in here just after the slide. When we look at this, the biggest staff challenges folks are having, we were hearing at the time, was we were hearing that they're having difficulty finding qualified candidates. But the truth is some of the data we just showed you showed that they might already have access to the qualified candidates. They're just not utilizing it. So it was interesting to look at what challenges folks are running into compared with their behavior, or what what data points they were driving, and what staff they were recruiting for. So that's what was our findings. Jack, do you want to talk a little bit about observations and some of your thoughts right here?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that is interesting is that overwhelmingly the camps surveyed were not recruiting aggressively for staff in the fall. And I think that that's for a lot of different reasons. People drop out, that we have 1,000 other things to do, we're tired. Um, and the staff, anecdotally, the camps that are hiring in the fall tend to be more full of staff by the time summer comes around. No surprise. Um, it's harder to drop out or ghost than it is for a staff member to actually show up at camp because they've made a commitment. And as much as maybe um, their commitments don't seem as locked in as what we all want their commitments to feel like, it's still better than nothing. Um, and sort of going through the rest of this, the big thing for that Dan and I take away from it are, what are the big sources that we're going to get staff from? And it seems the easiest to fill camp if we have easy buckets to be getting great staff from. And the two of the easiest ones that we can all work on are, one, the staff that were here last summer, the sevens and eights that we saw in the chat that you were quite happy with. What can we do to increase the likelihood that they're going to come back to camp? And my first suggestion is just text them, uh, send them a WhatsApp and say, "Hey, I'd love for you to be back at camp next summer. How are you?" Um, and then the second one is former campers, whether they're in a formal CIT program or any other version of they were at our camp, so they already get our camp. That is going to be another great bucket to come to get. Now you can add other buckets. There's tons of other buckets out there to add: a local teaching college, a sports team that always sends their whatever. There's plenty of other pipelines, but those two, if I am starting from scratch, those are the two that are, I think, the easiest to go to, because they are people that were already at our camp. They already get us. They already generally like us. Um, the I think this is my hypothesis. This has no data attached to it. Happy camp directors love their staff. Happy camp directors have great staff. I don't know if happy camp directors make great staff, but what I see is that my friends that run camps that are the happiest feel like they have great staff. And maybe they're delusional. Maybe they just are living in a world where they don't understand what's actually happening. But I think slightly differently. I think that great staff make our jobs less stressful, which makes us happier. And I think this is a way, I think, to get there. We have high standards. We don't hire staff back that don't live up to the standards that we have. That means our staff are better because we're raising the floor. We're helping people that are doing quite a good job be even better. And we're saying, hey, based on our rubric and our very clear guidelines, you did not live up to the standards that we asked for. And that means that while you're probably an amazing person, this is not going to be a place for you next summer. Great staff want to work with other great staff. If we all got together and ran a 1 week camp program, it would be so fun because I would get to work with all of you. And then I would tell every one of my friends, come to this ICF pop-up camp in Sao Paulo because you're going to get to meet Gwen and Kate and Robert and Simon. And you're going to have an incredible time at this camp. It's going to be so fun. Like I want to tell everyone about it, and then I'm going to want to get back. I think that is true for every one of our staff. Our staff look around and they know the staff that aren't carrying their weight. They know the staff that are slacking. They know the staff that are constantly on their phones. And our great staff are frustrated about that. Our mediocre staff, they don't care. They're like, whatever, I'm just getting a paycheck. But our great staff are frustrated. And when you're on a team full of incredible people, you want to tell all your friends about the incredible team because you're proud to share it. That then means that we're going to have more people that want to come work at us. So then we can have even higher standards. And we just keep going through this flywheel. Um, and so uh, the where to start on this is complicated because if we just raise all of our standards and we don't have enough staff, guess what? Now we have even fewer staff, which means that now we're in a really deep trouble. So if I am actually starting this right now. I'm about to run a camp for the first time. I'm going to be, I'm coming into this new camp. They have a pretty good staff, but I want to raise the standards. And where I'm starting is a little bit, but they have really high staff retention, and they so a little bit higher standards. So a little bit not hiring back the folks that weren't doing as well, but way more. I'm reaching out to everyone that I know and trying to take and bring in a crew of 4 to 8 unbelievably high quality staff. People I know are incredible. And I'm going to pay them a little extra. And I know that they're sort of like free agents. They're only coming in for probably a summer or two. But I'm betting that they're going to raise the standard. They're going to bring all of us up. They're going to make it exciting to work at camp. And that's going to help me grow. I'm saying, look at where we could possibly go. Let's all go there together as opposed to focusing on trying to bring the staff that are the least high performing, bringing in the best people and saying, let's go there. Dan, what did I miss?
That was wonderful. Gabs, I'm going to invite you to come in as we just cover these last actionable recommendations. I'm going to stop my screen share, but just to give us some questions, and we could pause here for a few seconds before we go into the next section. So,
Hey Dan, way to remember to stop your screen share. We were told in the pre-meeting, stop the screen share at this point so we get
yes,
our faces get bigger.
yes, exactly it. So, we're going to do exactly what Jack was saying, and the data backs up. CIT programs utilize the fall, and
Hmm.
really good people know good people, exactly what Jack was just talking about. So, meaning that the word of mouth will bring in the type of staff that you want. So ask your staff that are fantastic to do it. And yeah, we
Hmm.
recommend working with folks. So I'm going to stop the share right now. And Gab,
Thanks.
yeah, turn over to
Well,
you for a
the
few,
the
please.
the
Yeah.
chat is on fire. Lots of comments, loving it. I think that a couple of observations. So our organizations does hire during the fall, and what we've noticed is that we have a higher sticking rate, meaning staff will stay with us until the summer, um, if we hire them in the fall. Whereas if we hire them in the spring, they have a higher chance of ghosting us, as Jack said, or not showing up, or last minute canceling. So when they're committed for a longer period of time, for us, it has made a big difference in our statistics and our numbers.
Gabs, why do
Mhm.
you think that is?
Well, I think that the holiday season, when you're going home and you're talking to your families about what you're doing that summer, to your friends, to your family, you be that becomes the priority, and everybody moves their schedule around you. So if you want to do a little holiday together, or you're locked in, so everybody moves around you. So this has been a game changer for us in the sense that the ghosting typically happens in the spring, and it doesn't if they've committed in the fall. But of course, you do have to keep in contact with them throughout that time. And that's a whole other conversation we can have. Where I'm interested in, and I really do agree with you, Jack, that high standards is really important. It does attract people that also have high standards. That's a shared value. How do you help? A lot of the times, what camp directors can struggle with is they'll maybe be very clear with their mission. So that's how they get the staff to have a buy-in. But what's a way to communicate clearly to your staff what your standards are at the beginning of the summer and throughout the summer? And I do love your idea of bringing in people you already know that has the skill sets, not only the motivation and passion, but the capability. How do you communicate these standards clearly to people so that they know what's expected of them.
Um, I'm sure Dan has like a really nice like sort of trick for this. What I do in the interviews is say this job is not for everyone, and it is totally okay. It is absolutely okay if you don't want to work that hard this summer. It is going to be hard to work at camp. It is awesome for some people. It's like hiking a giant mountain, throwing a birthday party for 200 kids, and going to a music festival all at once. Those things are awesome for me. I love it. It is incredible. And if you don't want to work hard in that way, and in kind of those three ways, which is that you're going to be outside on your feet, running around all day, you're going to be working with kids, trying to bring joy to kids and helping them when they're crying, and it's often going to be loud and boisterous. And that doesn't mean you always have to be going around yelling, but it is going to be a uh, sensory overload type of place often. If that is not going to be for you, and you don't want to work that hard for that, it is totally okay. In sales, they call it the anti-sell. It's like sort of I want you to have to choose to not hold yourself to those standards. That doesn't work every time, certainly not, of course not. But sort of, I want to push people. I want to push, especially new folks, a little bit away and say it's totally okay. This isn't for you. We are going to strive for greatness, and if that's not something you want to do, Target will pay you more.
Well, and I think that it's a great practice when you're hiring somebody, and that tactic is extremely important because it is tough, and there's a lot of misunderstandings of what summer camp is. It's portrayed as a place that you can hang out and be in the sun and play with kids, but it's probably one of the tougher jobs that people go through. It certainly is for me. And so saying, we want you to see if your energy is the right energy, and we want you to interview us. You want to have the right people. So I love that transparency, Jack. I really appreciate you saying that. And then during the summer, I guess it's coming back to some of those key points, and helping staff members understand how they can manage some of those tough moments. So really, really appreciate it. I'm going to pass it back to you two, so we can keep learning, keep the learning going.
Wonderful,
Dan,
wonderful.
Dan, do you have a nice trick for this? A good way that you help people live up to the standards that you set at the beginning of the summer?
Yeah, thank you for prompting me. I'll just say briefly, I visit all these camps like Jack has, and I watch a direct line from the leadership to the kids camp experience. What I mean by that is that I really believe that culture, how the group acts together is everything. So when interviewing staff, when bringing staff in, I'm very explicit, I'm very clear about what the culture is. And I tell them that everybody can add to culture and everyone can take away from culture, meaning I'm watching how you talk to each other. I'm watching how you talk to the children. I'm watching how the supervisors talk to you. I'm watching if you are picking up trash. Because if you pick up trash when you're walking around, that means you love the place. I want us to run a program that you be proud enough to put your own family in. And those are kind of the questions I ask myself, those five questions as I'm walking around and visiting camps. But I also put that out to the staff because everything I just said doesn't require any technical skill, doesn't require years of working with kids, doesn't require you to do anything other than just be a good person and to pay attention. And I can generally find a good common ground with people if they have that. That combined with there is a bit of what Jack phrases the anti-sell, endurance and commitment needed. You have to really want to be here. But if you want to be here and you're willing to adapt to the culture or enhance the culture, I find it works out really well. And when you boldly put it like that, some people say, okay, yeah, this isn't for me. This is not what I wanted. And that's great. There's plenty of other jobs out there, and best of luck to you this summer, So that's really it. But Jack, thank you for prompting me. Great. All right. So let's go back to the show. So we're going to cover now where do you get new staff from? And again, we surveyed American camps. Yeah, sorry, camps from the United States. So some of these will pertain to everyone, nation and worldwide. Some of these you might find a little bit regional, but we're going to do the same format where we cover data. Jack's going to add in some great observations, and then Gab's going to ask us questions, and we'll do this two more times. So thank you for hanging with us. Um, so we asked, and this reinforces the ideas that Gabs was asking about, Jack was mentioning, and that we just talked about. What are the top three sources you're finding seasonal staff from? And number one is word of mouth. We meaning great people hang out with great people, right? So the key, as we were just talking about, is to go back to the folks that are high performers and to play on that. And we'll talk more about that in a few slides, but it's very clear that that was number one. Number two is a popular site in the States. I'm not sure if it's popular outside the States as much, but Indeed is a very popular job board, meaning a place where you can post a job. And then number three is Handshake, which is a little bit more of an interactive job board or a place you can post a job as well too, mostly through colleges as well. So what was interesting to us when we started talking about this topic was, do you anticipate being fully staffed by the start of camp? The reason we asked this question was Jack and I were talking to camps, and they would make the comment, well, you're never fully staffed. That's the comment they would make to us. And to Jack and I, who have, decades combined of running camps, we didn't often understand. So when we asked this question and started drilling in, it was interesting to see that some people never actually get to a fully hired capacity with their camp program. And it was interesting, the day camps versus overnight camps, there was very little delineation, and then very little delineation overall, other than what was interesting to us was that there was one subgroup of overnight camp, the ones that were working a certain way with funding, said they were more likely to not be staffed, which was interesting to us. And then we also followed that up. We said, if no, what roles are the hardest to fill? And what was interesting to us was that camp counselors ended up being the most prominent. And if you think about what a camp counselor is, it sometimes requires the most innate skill or basically human skill or emotional intelligence, which is sometimes hard to find, but also doesn't require a lot of technical skill. So we thought this was very interesting overall when we compared it to the other roles at camp, that the counselors was the hardest for them to find. And yeah, it just overall was very fascinating when we looked at how people viewed where they were getting their camp staff from. Jack, do you want to jump in here on this slide?
Yeah, we could probably go to the if you we can probably stop sharing the slideshow if you want for a second. Um, I think that the big reason why it's hard to find camp counselors is that as an 18-year-old, saying I'm a camp counselor does not increase my social capital with my friends. It does not make my professors think that I am doing a good job, unless your professor's blind, and it doesn't um, make your parents most of the time feel like you are making smart professional decisions. So if it doesn't increase my social capital, it doesn't help my career to the people who are telling me about my career. That does not mean that it doesn't help your career, but to the people for whom you are telling about your career, your professors, your advisors, it does not help you. And your parents mostly think to themselves, "Oh, okay, they're going to go have fun in the woods and flirt and make jokes and hang out." It, then you have to have a certain I think it becomes hard to tell that story. I'm going to be a camp counselor unless we give them some more tools to help them tell that story to each one of those groups. how do I, as an 18-year-old, explain to my parents why working at camp connects to what my parents want to be true for me? And that's a deep question for an 18-year-old, how to think about. Uh, yeah, I love that, Gabs. The four P's don't really approve. Um, and yeah, the part I didn't even add the partners. Great point. Yeah, telling your girlfriend, "Hey, I'm going off to the woods for the summer, and I'm not going to talk to you. And by the way, I'm also not going to respond to your text because I'm not going to be on my phone." Uh, like, is this? It's a hard sell. Um, so it's hard to explain that. And then on the other side, it's hard to find those people because it's easy to do a Google search. It's easy to type into ChatGPT, "I'm a camp. I want to find lifeguards." Okay, here are going to be where lifeguards hang out. They're going to already be working at different pools. You're going to find Teach America to Swim. You're going to connect with your local Y. It's easy to find lifeguards. I need to find a basketball instructor. Okay, I'm going to go on to every local university near me, and I'm going to figure out the way to send an email to all of the basketball players on the club team, and I'm going to figure that out because their names are listed, and I just take the first letter and their last name at University of whatever. Like you can sort of dream up the ways to pull that off. Where do you find a camp counselor? What makes a good camp counselor? We just said this earlier. They're like motivated and care about kids, but like it's hard to like narrow in on looking for them. And then at the same time, it's hard for them to feel like super proud about being a camp counselor. I'm identifying the problem. Dan, what are three ways? What are three ways that we can solve this problem?
Yeah. Three things people can do. One is they can make either a kit or a graphic that their great performers, their top camp staff can share. So making it easy for their camp staff that they love to go and find more great people that they're all caring for. So that's number one. Number two is to make partnerships. Those partnerships can act as pipelines. When we refer to pipelines, this was referring to an organization or even a person that essentially knows what a great camp staff member is and sends them your way. So it might be a local university, college. It might be somebody that has really great ties to the local community. Might be somebody that works at a school or someplace that involves children. But having a pipeline where you know if somebody sends you a staff member from there or a referral from there or just somebody to meet, that they're going to be a high quality person. And then the third is something we rarely tap into is our camp families. Our camp families know our camp product, our camp experience better than we do sometimes because they're the ones experiencing it. So if you could ask those families, hey, if you know of anybody that should work at our camp, please send them to us. That often are the people that are the most dedicated to the camp because they have a self interest. They want the camp to be great for the children, right? So, but we just, it was surprising to us that that didn't come up at all in the data. And it's really an untapped market. And frankly, um, everything we just said is free for the most part, right? Those are all very low cost or free solutions, which we know with camps and their budgets and how they're operating, that is often something that they need. So we feel really good about those three action points. Um,
And so, what I would encourage you to do, and you can even do it while we are talking, because I know that everyone is sort of multitasking and checking your emails and whatever. Send three texts, send three WhatsApps to people who might know someone who can bring someone to your camp. Your best staff member from last summer, send them a message right now, even while we're talking. Hey, I'm trying to figure out how to get the best staff to camp. Do you know anyone who might be great? Send it to your favorite parent. I know you don't have a favorite parent, but you do. All of us do. Don't lie to me. You have that one parent who always is like really supportive and shows up with brownies and gives everyone brownies at the end of the summer or whatever. I had a dad at a camp I was just volunteering at show up with bourbon at the end of the summer. He literally gave a bottle of bourbon to the staff. And I want to text him and say, "Hey, who do you know?" Send 3 texts like right now that just say, "Hey, I'm hiring for next summer. Uh, who do you know that would be awesome?" Because I am afraid to ask my families for staff if I wait too long. If I send an email in June that says, "Hey, do you know anyone great that would be ready for the summer?" I look like I'm not prepared. But in November, come on. I was like, yeah, sure. How could you possibly have even started hiring? I don't even know what summer is.
I love it. And Jack, I think this is a piece where it's interesting with camp directors. What I've noticed is a lot of camp directors in their own bubble at camp can get up on stage and grab everybody's attention or can have a one-on-one with a kid that's having a hard time. But sometimes asking for help when they're outside of the context of camp can be difficult. So I do love your approach of just call those three favorite parents. We're just saying, uh, I'm not saying it, Jack's saying it, and say, hey, like, who do you know? Send them over. It's not just about your online marketing program. It's not just about those things. It's literally about the good people that you know that care about your organization. And I would say that from your organization, you have a lot of alumni that have a thanks to Camp Story or because of Camp Story, I'm now an engineer. I'm now the CEO of my company. And there's a wonderful way of making connections for new staff members with those individuals, using that in a social media campaign and showing these are people that have come and worked from our camp. And because of this camp, they were able to get these other jobs, their later in life jobs. I'm getting a little message saying that we are rocking and rolling and that we want to just continue with this wave with you, Dan and Jack. We're going to skip a little bit the question portion, but the information's awesome. Let's keep going.
Great,
Dan, we
great.
got we got 9 minutes. Lock in.
Yes,
Do
exactly.
it.
Awesome. Let's talk about hiring and onboarding, and feel free to put the questions in the chat. The chat's very active, and we'll do our best to keep the Q&A going in there as well too. And it's good to see there's some really great questions come through. So hiring and onboarding, to us, this is also fascinating. When Jack and I were talking with camps, we would hear, "Oh, we lose too many applicants." We would hear, "How do you keep staff from not coming to summer?" Exactly what Gabs was saying earlier about bailing or ghosting. And so when we looked at this, we really wanted to know, how long your process was. And it was shocking to us. This is probably the most shocking part of this whole survey was some people are taking over 2 weeks to a month to basically go from meeting somebody to then telling them they're hired for a camp staff. And when we look at this, to be honest with you, the sweet spot is really this top portion here. You really want to be within a week. If you think about where attention spans are these days, you think about the competing schedules and how many different opportunities people have. If we're not in this top area here, we're really missing the mark. So I think it's just interesting when we talk about recruiting. Sometimes we do it to ourselves. We are our own problem. It was clear from the data. This was the most drastic, I would say, reveal was that we're just not hiring fast enough for applicants. And we saw this across the board. We did see some portion of day camps move faster, but for the most part, people were not moving fast enough. And that's really needed by your staff member. Um, the the other thing we often hear and we know is that, frankly, we're doing this for the children. We're doing this for impact. We're doing this to have a fun and safe experience. And that doesn't always go hand in hand with compensation. So we really want to know how people are paying staff. And what was interesting to us was that when we looked at all these different dimensions, um, there were still 20% of camps not paying people for staff training. We felt that was low. We were happy to see that 80% were paying for staff training, but we think that could be higher. We noticed that some people are paying a flat stipend as well too, and some states in the U.S. require an hourly wage, which we know could be hard for folks. And then as we get into the nuances of it, really we wanted to see like if they are considering other wage laws that are in the US, in the States. So it was fascinating to kind of see that there was a wide spectrum of answers. But overall, the headline, the number one thing that came out of this is that people need to start paying for staff training if they're not. Most people are, but more camps need to. And then we wanted to know why we were losing staff. We wanted to know why staff are going to other places. And the most common answer was conflicts with summer availability, meaning that camp is a long time, and overall, the commitment is a very large commitment for folks. And so understanding that flexibility really kind of moves the needle. And then right after that was salary, which we know, again, some of our budgets are fixed, meaning that we can't increase the salary wage without increasing everyone's wage or throwing everything off kilter. But salary does matter, is what we're telling folks, and that people need to be compensated for the work they're doing. At the same point in time, we understand that for camps, this is a pinch point, meaning that it can be very hard to compete with the local jobs in the area. And then the last real data point for you before we really kind of open it up is just when we look at this, the onboarding was fascinating, meaning that overall people are not feeling good once they become a staff member. Your goal, once you've hired somebody, is to make sure that they feel positive. So you meet the person, you interview the person, you say to them, "Hi, I want you to come work for me." They're super happy. And then some camps don't speak to them for months and months and months and months and months. And that right there is hard for people. So it's important to understand that 85% of camps are missing the mark. 85% of camps in the US that shared that they are not making people feel good. And as Jack was sharing earlier, as Gabs has shared as well, that is everything. If you can make people feel good from the day you're hiring them, they're more likely to be happy as they come in. So I'm going to stop the share because we're starting to wind down as well too. Jack, I want to give you the floor, and if you want to talk about any of the observations.
I have two thoughts. One, um, thinking about staff is hard when I need to be thinking about camper recruitment. Like camper recruitment is what makes my camp work because it's what funds all the operations. It's what makes everything work. And so I will admit, always camp staff recruitment sort of gets pushed down slightly in the reality of running the business of camp. I do believe that happy camp directors love their staff. And so uh, I need to constantly figure out how to make sure that I can prioritize finding great staff so that I'm a happier person. And in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that comes second to camp existing tomorrow because I've recruited enough campers to exist. At the same time, great staff help campers come back and it builds a different flywheel, right? So I'm just admitting we're just adding more to your plate. It's harder, right? There's a lot of other things going on. My second, and this is maybe a mildly controversial opinion, Dan said we need to pay our staff more. I love the idea of paying our staff more. There are camps with really happy staff who come back year after year who don't get paid as much as your camp. It is not just about money. We cannot just throw up our hands and say we can't pay people enough and use that as the excuse for why people don't come to our camps. I love the idea of paying our staff more. And that's not the only thing. That can't be our excuse. It can't be what we lean on. We have so many other things that we have to offer. But we don't want to gaslight our staff. We don't want to pretend that money doesn't matter. It certainly does matter, but it's not the only thing. It is one of many things. And so I want to acknowledge that because I can't afford to pay our staff more right now. I can't. And I could just say, oh, that just means I can't have great staff. And I'm not, I can't do that either because then I won't have a great camp. So uh, uh, the positive reframe of that is that while money is important, Staff aren't coming to camp just for the money. That's a piece of why it's a job. Working at camp all summer, most of the time won't be volunteering. It is sometimes. It mostly won't. And money can be a part of the motivation, but it's not the um, only thing. Yeah. The research is that um, if you have one great friend at work, the likelihood that you're going to stay at work goes through the roof. Guess what? We're the best in the world at helping people make friends. So let's do that. Let's lean into that. Let's make sure we're helping people make great friends at camp and helping our staff, just like we work on scaffolding for our kids. Dan, take us home.
Yeah, Jack, well said. I echo everything that you just mentioned. I'm going to put in the chat the slides. I'm going to welcome Gab back in because we're at time, but it's been a
Mm.
pleasure to spend time with you. If you need anything, you can certainly find our contact information through the slide deck. But if you click that link and you click the button slides from ICF, that will give you all the slide deck, articles related to it, access to Jack and I's newsletters as well too, and always happy to chat further. But we all know great staff make a great camp, as simple as
Mhm.
that. So it's well worth the investment.
I think thank you so much to the both of you. It reminds me of another survey that was done in the US for parents that what's the number one quality you want in your kid's camp counselor? And um, people were shouting out things like, safety, fun, et cetera, et cetera. But the number one quality was that they wanted from their kids' camp counselor was that they were able to care for their kid. Care was the overarching important piece. And what I'm taking away from your talk today, as much as it's anchored in research and numbers, is the different ways that we care for our staff. And Jack, you're right. It's not just for money, but money does show an element of care. Community is another piece of care. How we hire and their timeline also shows how we care. Staying connected throughout the process until they come to camp is how we care. So care is a very important sort of piece of in my opinion, what you're talking about. For camp directors, sometimes, as you both know, you're on your own, or you have one other person that you're working with, or you're a large team, but you're at your max. A lot of what we're talking about is maybe shifting a schedule, starting hiring process early. We know we have also camps here that they do hiring process throughout the whole year because they're fully all year round organization. Finances go up, training goes up, connection goes up when we care. How does a camp director that already feels maxed out, where can they start? What can they do? They might be agreeing the whole time, but they feel they might be at their limits. Have you seen anything that camp directors have done that have because in the end it will loosen up hopefully their responsibilities. Some of this work will make their lives easier, but have you seen anything that some camp directors have done that hasn't put too much pressure on them when they already feel like they're at their bandwidth?
I'm good at this. My solution is work more, and that's not a good solution. And I know that. I'm happy to admit that.
Jack.
The second thing, that's just that is what I do. The other thing I think that I've seen people, I think as an industry, we are bad at something, which is stopping doing stuff that is not that important. We spend too much time trying. We're afraid of looking like we're not being intentional because that's been drilled into our head for the last 30 years by Michael Brandwein. And uh, there's a choice that we can make a lot of the time. Do less. Look at your calendar and decide to do fewer things. And I'm bad at that, so I just work too much. But I don't think that there's a silver bullet. We can look at all of the productivity hacks in the world. AI is going to help in some of this stuff. But the best way to make space to do better at things is to do less stuff. Just don't do it.
I love that. It's prioritizing, right? And that's what you were talking about at the beginning is spending that time and energy and finding the right staff and creating higher standards. But there's a prioritization piece. I love that. What about for you, Dan?
It's funny, I find that um, we often are gravitated towards work that makes us feel good. And
Hmm.
so I would encourage us to shift our paradigm to essentially make some of the tasks that can feel either cumbersome or icky or just not as fun to make them fun, and to
Hmm.
add humor or to add different ways to make it engaging for yourself. And if you can trick your brain into thinking like this, if you get your brain to go from a task of like I hate doing this to I do this well, if you could shift that paradigm over time, you will do more of that. And it's as simple as that. And so a lot of times we all do this is we put off the task that we really don't want to do, and then when we go to do the task and it only takes 5 minutes, and we sometimes spend more energy thinking about that task, procrastinating, than actually getting it done. So my encouragement to you is to explore and to have introspection and to look at what you avoid doing in work and start questioning why and start figuring out how you can make it more enjoyable for you. And if you could do that, this job becomes much more, I wouldn't say easier, but much more simple and straightforward to do. And it's less complex because we provide great things for children. We provide great things for our staff, but often we're our own worst enemy when we do this type of work. And if we could really just be kind to ourselves and make it fun, it'll be a much better day and we'll operate and work faster and overall.
I love it. And thanks, Jack, for including some of the things that we can, add on or take off of our to-do list. So edit some of our to-do list, perhaps ask for help, and also find a community within the camp professionals in your area to problem shoot some of these pieces. And as an industry, we're stronger together. So, other camps doing well, it looks good for us too. So bringing those people in, absolutely. Just like you two sharing your wonderful information today. Thanks for bringing us into your world, into your information, into your great insights and wonderful energy. Really, really appreciate it. And from myself and the whole team at ICF Academy, thank you so much, Dan and Jack, for being here with us today. We are going to shift gears just a little bit, just for one moment. And I'm very excited to talk to you today about news about the International Camping Congress in 2026. It's happening, everybody, in Taiwu Resort, China. So, first of all, it's a resort. Second of all, there is a wonderful brand new program that I would like to highlight. It's called the Campfire Relay, ICC, so International Camping Congress 2026 Torchbearer Program. So this initiative celebrates everything that I personally love about camp: friendship, sharing, togetherness. Um, ICF is looking for passionate individuals from around the world to help carry the spirit of camp leading up to the Congress. So basically, sharing your excitement and the good information about the Congress itself. If you love camp and want to get involved, consider applying to be an official torchbearer. Torchbearers will receive special recognition, media visibility, and exclusive invitation to select events. Who doesn't love being a VIP? And the other thing about being a torchbearer is if you're a torchbearer, you get to meet other torchbearers. Those are connections. Connections are great. That's what we do at camp. So the next big announcement that you don't want to miss is registration is officially open, everybody. Hopefully you got your email. If not, we will be sending, reach out to us. We're going to go over social media stuff in a moment, but we strongly encourage you to secure your super early bird registration spot. This is going to be the lowest rate that will be offered, and it is very low. So low that one of my staff members that received the email wrote me and said they must have made a mistake on the finances. We're going to share that with you in a moment. And I said, no, this is an effort to bring as many people as possible. So So do register early. And there is some not only financial benefits, but there's some VIP benefits as well, such as being the first in, the rows of like the big keynote and that kind of thing. So try to get in if you're thinking of going, register now. The deadline for the super early bird rate is November 30th. So we are approximately 10 days away from that, or a little bit more, but make sure you register before then. And of course, all of this is happening in the stunning Tawu Resort. Listen, I come from a ski town, everybody. This is also a ski resort. So imagine going to your sessions and then hitting the slopes. For me, this is, well, feels like home and also a dream come true, especially for some of us that need a little bit of moving to help that learning happen. It's a match made in heaven. Also, the Taiwu Resort in China is well known not just for its ski resort, but also hosting phenomenal congresses. So they know what they're doing. They have everything set up and they're eager to have us. So all the links you need, registration for the Torchbearer program, everything are in the chats. And let's make ICC 2026 an unforgettable experience. And let's do that together. I'm hoping to see a lot of you in China in next year around this time. So here are some what we have. Sorry, I just noticed that here we have some of the finances, and the registration piece. I am going to bring in my good pal Gwen to just talk a little bit more how you can stay in contact with us and register for this wonderful Congress.
Thank you so much, everyone. This has been a wonderful episode. We've learned so much, and I'm so grateful for everybody's contributions. And we always want feedback in terms of what we did well, what we can do better, and your ideas for what topics you would like to be able to hear in the future. So next slide, please. This is what ICF is. It's us gathering together, sharing ideas. So we have lots of different ways that we can communicate with the social media. That feedback form that I just mentioned is going to pop up when you get out of Zoom, or you can also see the link in the chat. And we've got different chat channels on WhatsApp and also in WeChat. So please join into the conversations with all of those. And none of this is possible without our great ICF Academy team. And so behind the scenes, we've had Lucy and Robert doing the simultaneous translation. Gabs and Kate make everything run so smoothly and look beautiful. And Alexia keeps everyone going. And Simon and Georgie have been able to add great feedback and ideas as we have progressed as a team. So thanks to everyone for all of the work that we're all doing. And if you'd like to volunteer to help, that's also an opportunity that is on the feedback form. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. And thank you, Gwen, for keeping this train moving forward. We'll be seeing you soon for our third episode, season 6, January 27th. We're excited to share with you on social media that what we're going to be discussing, all of the exciting learnings we'll be doing, and the connections that you'll be making with people around the world. Thank you again for being with us today. Really appreciate it. I know it's a highlight of my month, and looking forward to seeing you in January.